The legend of wholesaling. This is unbelievable. So excited to bring some knowledge to all the wholesalers out there. We have one of the GOATs, one of the greatest of all time, the man, the myth, Tripp Thompson, all the way back to the Planco days, the genesis of wholesaling. He was the number two wholesaler in the entire company. We worked at an insurance company together. He was one of the top wholesalers in the history of the company. And then he was a divisional and I think coached and led one of the most legendary divisions. So not only was he a wholesaler, he was also a divisional. And now he is crushing it as a financial advisor. So Tripp, man, thank you for doing this. We are honored for you to grace us with your presence and tee us up, man. How did you get started in the business? Tell us about kind of the genesis of Tripp Thompson.
Well, you're too kind, Matt. First and foremost, normally when anybody refers to me as a goat, it's because I have bad hair and I'm a little chubby in the middle. But I was a financial advisor and I did a seminar one night and I had a wholesaler that I really liked, a very, very professional, no nonsense guy named Mike England from Planco, who I invited to come speak at my seminar. I didn't normally do that because I had been in engineering sales for a couple of years and been through some public speaking training and stuff like that. So the other financial advisors in my office hated to get up in front of public. They weren't good at it. It was kind of natural for me. So I didn't normally do that. But I liked Mike, and I thought Mike had an amazing story about Hartford and Wellington and how they managed the money for the Federal Reserve pension plan back when Alan Greenspan was the head of the Federal Reserve. And so I wanted him to share that story. And he came to the seminar, and after the seminar, Mike was very kind. He said, You did an amazingly good job of presenting. And we got to talking about my background and this, that, and the other. And I asked him, you know, greatest rule of sales, if you don't ask, you won't know. I asked him, how did you get into your side of the business? And he told me, he said, I was an advisor like you, and I I asked the guy and got a break, and I said, well, do you think I could get a shot at at doing a job like yours? Because I used to love to travel before I became a financial advisor. And he just kind of got flush in the face. He said, you aren't going to believe this. He said, I just got promoted tonight driving over here to your seminar.
No way.
I went 3 days later, interviewed with a guy named Charlie Fry, who you talk about a legend that you need to talk to. You need to talk to Charlie. Charlie still wholesales for John Hancock, and Charlie's a wonderful guy and one of the best wholesalers ever. But I went and met with Charlie and Tim Seifert. You know Tim? Remember? And
Legend.
met with those two guys in Charlotte, and the rest was history. You know, the thing that Mike England did for me as a wholesaler that I didn't see other wholesalers do, he would go to meet a client with me or do a seminar with me, and he put all the focus on two things: making his presentation interesting and always teaching people something they could remember and take out of there. And he went over the top at making his advisors look really good as far as how much we cared about our clients. And so, I always said to myself that if you become a wholesaler, he's giving you the model that I would try to emulate. And that's really what I did. You were talking about, having a memory of people and being able to tell stories. if someone's in wholesaling and they do not have those two gifts, they better work on it and they better figure that out. Because I do think that, there used to be an old saying at Planco, show up and don't be an asshole and offer to help. And then our old buddy Anthony Brown used to always say, learn it, live it, love it. And I think I was very blessed to have an amazing career wholesaling, but I don't know of many ideas that were mine. I tried to learn from those that did. Like I told you, when you came to work with us, uh, we would teach guys like you, but we would learn from you too, because everybody, especially smart people, they figure things out that you haven't. And so I remember watching you do the mail merge stuff, thinking to myself, sweet Jesus, if I would have had something like that, I don't know how many people I could have gotten in front of, because that didn't exist when I was wholesaling, right?
I believe you called
So
those magic emails back in the day, Tripp. That's how you referred to them as magic
yeah, because
emails.
I couldn't believe you could do stuff like that, So
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
were doing mail merge back in 2009, and I think there's still some wholesalers that still don't even know that don't use it, right? I mean, that's
yeah. Well, when I look back at the companies that I work with, the top wholesalers at all of them, and you and I talked about this the other week, they always, always are in communication with the other top wholesalers. And the normal phone call is, yo, brother, sister, what's working? What are you killing it? What are you doing? And they'll tell you, because you know what, they respect each other. And you know what, that call motivates them to keep being great. And the more you see people, the more ideas, the more you learn as a wholesaler, and the more ideas flow. And that was always the beauty of it. I remember thinking one time I heard a guy say, they want us to do 20 meetings a week. What are they, crazy? And I used to go, man, I do 20 meetings in 4 days. I don't know. I love. I don't like the windshield time. I like the face time, and you can't have the face time without the windshield time. So that was, and I can tell you right now, John Chidwick, the Dan Rushes of the world. There's been a lot of talented wholesalers that I've seen over my career, and they see more people. You'll hear people say, "Well, some of them just know how to work smarter." No, they don't. If they ever get to that point, it's because they saw more people face to face and they built more deep relationships over time, where maybe they don't have to do 25, 30 meetings a week anymore. But I can promise you that they still do 20, or they're not top wholesalers. So I think it's difficult today to get in as a wholesaler to see people you don't know, because we're inundated with so much other stuff. Back in the day, I didn't have email when I started. I couldn't place a stock trade on my machine in the 90s. I used to have to write it on a ticket, go down the hall, hand it to a lady behind a cage, and she would wire it in to the trading desk. So, and we're not talking about 50 years ago, we're talking about 30 years ago. So, things will continue to change. So, if you're wholesaling and you've been doing it 10 years, there's somebody right now who's younger than you that's better with technology than you are. You better be talking to them. You better find out what they know that can help you learn. So,
great, Tripp. And this is fantastic. But you said you started at Planco and you were an internal, and then they moved you to North Carolina, which was not a good territory at the time, correct?
well, actually, no, I was never an intern. I was a financial advisor. They hired
Oh,
me
you were.
from being a financial advisor and put me in South Carolina. And
South Carolina.
yeah, and I'll never forget the wonderful gentleman that founded Planco, Joe. Joe made the comment to me. He said, "I'm pulling for you." He said, "If you can ever do 50 to 60 million a year, He said that will be a huge win for that territory based off of demographics. And, that was before we had IXI numbers, before you knew how much money was in an area. And I did 120 million my first year, and when I left, I was doing about 250 million a year. And that was one thing that I had that was very good for me, being a financial advisor first, and then going into wholesaling. I understood their day-to-day role. But back then, I had the Hartford Director Annuity. They had just come out with the Hartford Mutual Funds, and we had fixed annuities and even had a single premium variable life, and they were starting the 401k plan. So I literally could walk in and say, "Hey, I got all kinds of stuff. What do you need help with? Do you have anybody who's trying to open a retirement plan? Do you have somebody that has got an old life insurance policy? You got somebody old, whatever it is." And I could kind of take. So I never came across like I was trying to jam something, down their throat. We're getting. I'm a sole independent advisor, and I get, I don't know, 150 emails a day. So that part of the business is not fun, right? So if you're wholesaling today, you're going to have to get in front of me in some other way. You're not going to send me an email and get a meeting with me. It's just, it's just not going to happen right now. So.
Told me is you took one of the bottom territories in South Carolina to second place, number 2. And I said, well, Tripp, how did you do it? And you said, Matty D, Tripp Thompson's no dummy. I called the number 1 guy. And, which as you mentioned was Anthony Brown. And I'm sure you had him on your speed dial. How often were you in communication with Anthony and some of the other top wholesalers? Was it daily, weekly, monthly?
There was another guy. In all fairness, you said number 2. I got to number 3. There was a guy who you need to talk to in Nashville, Tennessee, named Todd Mucci. Todd's still in the wholesale world, great wholesaler. Todd and I talked. Todd and John Chidwick and I and Dan Rush. I talked to one of those guys every day. I didn't talk to Anthony as much because he was in California, so our timetables were a little different. But there was not one week that went by that I didn't get. Back then, we had a voicemail system where we shared ideas, and so I would get voicemails from Anthony and back and forth, and a couple other guys around the country, and that was fun. I couldn't wait to get in and check the voicemails to hear what ideas they were sharing, and I think that made it personal. So when you heard, when you read an email, it's not the same as when you talk to somebody. I tell my children today, if you're dealing with somebody my age, anybody that's 50 years or older, and you send them an email, you just joined a pack of nobodies, right? You better pick up the phone and call them. And if you don't get them, leave them a sincere voicemail. It doesn't mean you're going to hear back from them, but that's how the process starts. People like me, we're personal people. Email. I think a lot of people don't like me on email because I probably sound like I'm mad a lot of times on emails because I'm in a hurry trying to get through them, and I don't mean it that way, but the communication form is different. So.
Go the extra mile, right? Like look up Tripp's website, look up your back, leave a message. Hey, I saw you played for Clemson. You were a quarterback. I saw your son's playing football. I'd love to connect. Go the extra mile. Don't just leave the voicemail. Actually include let the advisor know you've done some research, right? Some homework.
Yeah, you have Google today. You should Google everybody before you walk in. Have a clue who the hell you're calling on. I used to go to my advisor's kids' sporting events. If I was traveling and staying in a hotel, why wouldn't I go watch a buddy of mine's kid play basketball, play football, or play baseball, or whatever it was? I watched tennis matches. I did all kinds of stuff just to just to hang out with them. And for me, it was fun. I enjoyed it because these were, it's easy to say they're clients, but if you really like what you do, those people, as you know, they become friends. It's not just a business deal. And um, that also makes travel, in my opinion, much more enjoyable. And when the travel is not a grind, you're happier when you go in to see people. You're fresh, and I mean, we all know wholesalers that they show up looking like they just came off of a 3-day bender. And that doesn't that's not somebody I'm ever going to put in front of a client, right? I'm going to put the smartest, the most polite, the most educated, and the happiest person in front of a client if I put anybody in front of my clients. So if you don't check those boxes, check out.
Takeaways here. Number one, reach out to the best wholesalers in your company. I was a top wholesaler at 3 companies. Nobody would ever, I could be having the best month of my career and not a single person would call me and say, "Hey, Matty D, what are you doing?" Right? For some reason, we don't, like, you guys used to do that back in the day. The new modern day is people don't pick up the phone and call each other, which now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why. But if you're not doing that, start doing that. And then number two is when you're on the road, wow, you know what? I've never thought of that. Like, attend your advisors, ask your friends, "Hey, do you have any sporting events for your kids? Can I come?" I try to have a couple advisors that I'll even stay with at their house. But man, I've got this beautiful house. Oh, do you mind if I crash with you for a night? Uh, Saves you the hotel money, and then you have a better relationship. So those are just two takeaways. And you mentioned another thing, Tripp, about an email is not going to get a meeting with you as an advisor. So you were one of the masters. You and Chidwick were unbelievable at doing the gifts and getting in front of advisors. If you were a wholesaler now, how would you get in front of an advisor, or what did you used to do that would work for people?
It's funny you asked me that because I was talking with a friend, a former wholesaler, about this the other day because we never see it. We used to have an old saying, never eat alone. And you know what? If you're going to dine with one, why not dine with 3? So every advisor's got a buddy in their town. You know what? Number one, find out who's friends with each other and take them to lunch together, take them to dinner together. And you know what? When you take somebody to dinner, take their wife to dinner. That's the other thing that kind of floors me. If you get to know that person and their spouse and their children, they will talk about you when you're not there, good, bad, or indifferent. But if you're a good guy, that it should be good talk. That's how you build relationships. But why would I tell my story once at lunch when I can tell it 2 or 3 times the guys that are going to continue to talk about it when I'm gone? That not talking to top wholesalers and not doing that always, it was second nature to me and to guys like you. But when I became a divisional, I was shocked at how many guys I would travel with that didn't understand that. And I would have to sort of say, what do you not understand the basics here? You know, and we used to say, you and I remember, you got to run hypos. You got to get a hypo with a client name on it. Well, that's harder to do today because of the regulations, but it doesn't mean, you get a referral if you ask. Yeah. Hey, Matt, you want to go to lunch? Yeah. Hey, Matt, I know a great spot in town. Who's your best buddy in the business? You'd like to have me buy you guys lunch. We can break bread together.
Yeah, that
That's
is
easy,
so
man.
simple, yet, but yet I don't do that myself, Tripp. So I mean, I wish I could say I did, but how easy is that, right?
I can tell you right now that I know for a fact. I remember Anthony Brown saying, "You know what? Why would I waste an hour telling my story to one guy? Why would I waste an hour trying to help one person when I can help five? You know? And he was like, you know what? In any restaurant, you can get a table for four or a table for six. Why are you sitting there with you and one other person? And he was right. He was absolutely right. So, and the way the business is today, I'm a solo practitioner, but most of the people in the business work in teams. So you can easily get a couple people together if you're going to get somebody. And even if they're on a team, they probably got a buddy at another team somewhere in town. So you can play it that way. You just have to ask.
Great thing to put on your fact finder when you're meeting with advisors is who are your best friends in the business, right? Because
Yeah.
then they can tell you, maybe they meet with Tripp and you're like, oh, you know what? John Chidwick's been my friend for 50 years. I'm sure John is hard to get in front of. Well, if a wholesaler came to you and said, hey, you know what? Why don't you bring your wife, John bring his wife, I'll take you guys out. You guys can catch up, reminisce. We'll have a phenomenal time on me tonight. I mean, you'd probably be down for that, right? I don't know.
If I'm going to take time away from my family and I can't go somewhere with my wife, then I better have some a wholesaler that I've known for years that we're really close, or it better have something of other value, because as you know, I don't want to go to dinner just to hear about a mutual fund, right? No offense, that's there's got to be some value there. There really does, and I think the business is getting away from that, and that's kind of sad. So
People think that they can do everything digitally through email, like you said, and hope, right? But it's almost time to zigzag. If everybody's doing that, now you go back and you take the client and their wife and their best friend and their wife. Now no one's doing that, right? So that's kind of like,
yeah,
before maybe digital was the advantage, and now going back to what used to work is actually the the advantage in a crazy way, right?
yeah. And if you take somebody to a restaurant, think about where you're going. Don't go somewhere where the music's loud and you got to yell at each other. That's a waste. That's a waste of everybody's time. Pay an extra $10 a plate and go somewhere where you can have a conversation, right? I think that's the other thing. I think there's always a misconception that advisors want a free meal, and that's not always true. Sometimes it's blatantly true. But normally, if someone's going to take time, they're going to eat anyway. If they're going to take the time to meet a wholesaler, they don't want it to be a waste of time. They are looking for something. So make sure that you can communicate, or you've just blown an opportunity. Because if you take somebody to lunch and they can't hear you over the music, and 2 days later they meet another wholesaler with a similar product where they can have a clear conversation, and he needs a product like that for a case, what's he going to use? If they're very similar, he's going to use the one that he knows the best, or she's
Right.
going to use the one she feels the most comfortable showing to a client. So, you know, um,
I mean,
I
you
had a
don't have to
wholesaler
be.
not long ago. I had a wholesaler not long ago meet me at Smoothie King, and she was a younger wholesaler, and I met her because she has a long term care product that I think is pretty good. But I explained to her, I said, this is good. This is nothing fancy. I want to help you with your budget too. But if they get busy, we can't sit in here because I can't hear over the blenders, right? And the average age of a financial advisor is how old today, Matt? Do you know?
Got to be like, it used to be 56, but it's got to be pushing 60 at this point.
I heard from Fidelity 2 weeks ago it's 56. So it's my age. I'm 56. Um, my glasses are stronger. My ears are weaker, right? Um, if I'm a young wholesaler today, 56-year-old guys hate email. They believe in picking up the phone. And you know what? If they can't see it, touch it, feel it, and draw on it, they're probably not going to show it to a client. I think people forget that too. The young folks are trying to get old guys like me to put money with their companies. You know what I have on my desk in my office? You'll remember this. I have two cups on my desk that have reading glasses in them because most of my clients are my age or a little older. And if they forget their glasses, they can't read anything that I show them. So little things like that. Now, my brother, who is a wholesaler, I think he travels around and gives out reading glasses with his company's name on, for people to leave laying on their desk. Great idea, right?
Oh my goodness. You know what? It's, Bill Belichick used to have a quote, they don't plan to win the game. They plan on how to not lose the game. And
Sure.
I just remember my top annuity advice producer back in the day. I was killing it for me. And for like a month or two, he didn't do a single ticket. And I called him and I said, Todd, I haven't seen any business from you. Everything okay? Just wanted to see what's going on. And he said, yeah, you know what, Matt? He said, I ran out of kits 2 months ago. I don't have any kits. And I always present by showing them the kits, and we ran out in the filing cabinet. So I've been showing your competitor because we have their kits in the cabinet. And I was like, oh my God, it's that simple that he didn't have the sales kit to present to the clients, and that's why he took a month or two off from writing business with us, right? Like how.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. In the day, we had to have them on hand. Now we do them all online or Firefly or whatever it is. But I've done two fee-based annuities lately with I for Life or non-qualified stuff that you and I understand. But I will tell you, my guys at Lincoln have held my hand and made it easy for me so I don't have to become an expert in it. That's wholesaling 101. What do I need to have in my hands to help a client proceed with the business? And oh my God, yeah, back in the day, we had trunks full of annuity kits, and if anybody ever mugged me, I just grab a couple of prospectuses, and I could hold my own. Those things were lethal weapons back then, and but just because it's all done online doesn't mean us old farts know how to do it online, right? So that's a that's a whole nother issue for a wholesaler, you know. But I can't wait for you to talk to
um,
guys like Kirk North and John Chidwick about some of the things they used to do to get meetings with advisors. They were ridiculously creative and have some amazing stories that you'll find entertaining.
Talked to Kirk in a while, but John, I mean, he used to drop, books of, right? This, hey, I want to, if there's any nugget he'd just drop a book and then another book. And then the third book he dropped off, they said, you know what, John, you've dropped 3 books off. Obviously you're committed to helping me. Come on in. Uh, yeah. Any others that you know of? Any good drop offs or any good, kind of, creative ideas there? Or has anybody done anything for you, Tripp? Any wholesalers? Have they done anything creative to get in front of you? Nothing. Wow.
I haven't.
Here's the bar that has been set nowadays.
I,
Nobody's doing it.
well, and you know what? Again, I know the business has changed. I have one or two guys that are still what I consider really good friends, and we just get together and talk. And Guy Decker, my buddy at American Funds, guy's a legend. I don't know if you've ever met him. He's been with them over 20 years, and wonderful, wonderful person. Just the kind of guy that you would put him in front of your clients. You would have him out to dinner with your family, and you have to be known for being that. If you're a schmuck, you can forget it. They don't want you at their kids' games. They don't want you to go to dinner with their family, um, which I don't think many wholesalers are schmucks. I think the majority of the people in the wholesale business are very smart, very professional people. It's why they, especially the ones that do it for any length of time, they're top people in their industry for a reason. Um, I think as everybody gets inundated with information, the meeting a client together for lunch and me saying, "Hey, Matt, um, you know, I'm the representative for XYZ company. Okay. And this is how I used to do my client meetings. I am not legally allowed to give you financial advice. So I can't tell you if my product is good for you, bad for you, or indifferent. What I can do is tell you how it works, answer any questions that you and your advisor, Christina, have, and and then it's up to you guys. She's your fiduciary. It's up to her and you to see if this is a good fit for you." And my advisors loved that because I just took all pressure off the table. Nobody likes being pressured. Nobody likes being sold anything. They like a consultative approach, and they like to feel like they got their questions answered where they can have a conversation with their advisor about, is this good for me or not? Should I do this or not? And if so, what am I going to take away from that I remember why it's good for me?
Well, in the show notes, I'm going to jot that down. I'm going to read that thing 100 times because what you just said was powerful. And you gave a presentation, had to be 15 years ago, and I was probably too young to understand it, but you drew this out on a whiteboard, and it was something like, here's an email to an advisor, here's a phone call, here's meeting with them, and then here's meeting with them and their client. And you said what you want to do is you want to get close to the bullseye. You want to get in front of the end client. And I've been horrible at that. So that's my biggest, ever since talking to you, I'm like, you know what? I need to get better at that. And I think 99% of wholesalers nowadays are not getting in front of the end client. But how would you do that? How would you broach that subject? Because to me, that's what separates the top people to the stratospherical people, right? And you figured this out years ago, and it wasn't until I talked to you a couple of weeks ago that I reconnected the dots. So if you could talk about that, that would
All
be
right,
awesome.
I'm gonna give away the magic sauce. If I called you and I got you on the phone, I'd say, "Hey, Matt, who do you have that's sitting on too much cash? Whoever it is, can I take you and that client to lunch or dinner?" And once in a while, I'd get the question that say, "Well, I don't know if they're an annuity client, or I don't know if they're a mutual fund client." And I'd say, "That's fine. I don't care." And the advisor would look at me like, "What?" And I'd say, "I'm your partner. I'm here to help you. If I can help you talk to them about alternatives where they do something, will that help you?" They couldn't believe that I would be willing to do that. And 9 times out of 10, that client would do something with us. Because if you have something with a track record that does good in down markets and they can understand, that's why the money's in cash anyway. They don't understand where to put it. They don't understand if they can trust something other than the bank. That's your job. That's our job. If we're truly going to help them do better than the bank, the hardest thing is to get them off of step one. And so that was always my go-to if I felt like I was in a rut with somebody or I was really trying to get somebody over the hump to trust me, because I believe that if they put me in front of a client one time, they would do it again and again and again. And they did. But I always had to be prepared, be professional, and make them and the client feel good about the meeting without Every time I left a client meeting, it was always, thank you for not trying to sell us anything. I said, I'm not allowed to. I'm a wholesaler. I'm not allowed to.
I'm not
Lord,
allowed to.
yeah, my God, if you thought I tried to sell you something, I could get in trouble for that. And they'd laugh. And so I'd watch them laughing in the parking lot. And Kirk North used to laugh about that all the time. He'd be like, Tripp sells 200 million a year of nothing. And that's, but that's how I would have, as an advisor, that's how I would want my wholesaler to partner with me instead of sell to me, right? That that's
You're
Dale
on your
Carnegie
side of
stuff.
the desk, right? You're on the same team. It's not a
Guess
me
what?
pitching you. It's let's get some business in together jointly, right?
If you're the advisor and I'm the wholesaler and there's a client, who's it about? It's not about me or you. It's about the client. And if I help that client really feel and understand that we educated them, we brought value, and we didn't try to push something down their throat, you know what happened more often than not? And most people say, you got the business. No, we got the business plus a referral. I go all the way back to Anthony Brown. Who's better at telling my story than me? Nobody. But if I can get somebody else to tell my story close, I'll win again. And because every advisor's group of clients has friends in similar situations. If I take every client I have that has a net worth of $1 million or more, all of their friends are in similar situations, give or take 1 million, right? But so your odds are substantially higher if you just understand that you got to help people first. Everything else will take care of itself.
I guess here, but if you help an advisor, right, they're in an office with 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 other advisors, would you start to get a reputation of, hey, Tripp did this for me? You should do this with Tripp. Would the word start to spread?
I can tell you of 2 instances in my career early on where I would have a corner person, a corner guy at Smith Barney and a corner guy at Merrill Lynch. As I was walking down the hall, they had trained me to not knock on their door, not come in their office. And I saw this number here. Hey, I need, yeah. And you know what? I used to joke with them and I'd be like, I'll be there in a minute. And they'd look at me and I'd be like, I'm kidding. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah, you and I've talked about it offline. This wholesaling to me is one of the greatest jobs ever created, but it takes a special person to do it. And, when you told me that you haven't been seeing other wholesalers call you and ask you what you're doing, when you and I got off the call, I was thinking to myself, what is wrong with those folks? Because I know how good you are. I'd be on the phone with you like, hey, you're killing it. What are you doing? What are you doing? I can't tell you there were times I would call other people, the Dan Rushes of the worlds, and they'd be like, I knew you were going to call. I had a good production day. I knew you were going to call. I'm like, I need to know what's going on, you know?
They don't even need to look at the caller ID. They're like, that's probably Tripp Thompson.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? A lot of advisors don't do early meetings like they used to years ago before the proliferation of email and all this stuff. So we did a lot of breakfast meetings, and we would always be on the road at 6 a.m. I was in the, you can't look at me now and tell, I was in the gym at 5:30 every morning, and then showered up, and I was on voicemail and talking to wholesalers until then. Um, with internet phones, things are a little different, but yeah, I can't tell you how many times I would call people and thank them for business at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And they'd be like, what is wrong with you? I'd be like, nothing, man, I'm fired up. Let's go. And it, positivity breeds positivity.
Activity. Joe Minutolo, one of the greatest wholesalers of all time. I think he's an advisor as well now, but he was
Yes.
one of the most positive people I've ever met. And I think he even had a Joey Sunshine bobblehead that he'd give to
He,
advisors. Uh,
he absolutely did. You could punch Joe Minutolo in the face and he would smile at you and go, "That was a good one, baby." You know, he just, but you know what? And, and not everybody loved him. But you know what? A lot of people do. And those people did a lot of business with him. And and as a guy who managed him and got to travel and watch him, Joe was as hardworking and as professional in every way as anybody I've ever seen. And before Joe came to his first meeting at Lincoln, he had read and memorized the entire prospectus on the annuity products. And he could quote for you line for line where in the prospectus it talked about I for life and the taxation of it. And he also went and learned the private letter ruling because he said and he realized if these people are going to trust me, they got to know I know this stuff inside out and I'm not going to give somebody wrong information. That's professionalism. That's perfect. And you did the same thing because I know you did it. I know you did it.
hey,
But you know how many you
Texas.
know how many you know how many guys didn't do it, and how many ladies didn't do it. That's just a
I
personal
remember we
choice.
we we show up with the tax code. Hey, have you seen Section 72 E5E? Because if you die before you annuitize, it's LIFO. But look right here, I highlighted if you die post annuitization,
Right.
you get to pull out all your bases first. And hey, this line of 72E could make you tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So you might want
That's
to brush some of those things.
that's exactly right. That was one of the many reasons you had success quickly is you knew to do that, you did it, and then you did it everywhere you went because you had to teach people that it was a product and a tax code combination. And some people might call that sales, but you know what? I think most people that are competitive and are successful call that education. And that's what is the difference between a typical wholesaler and a great wholesaler.
45 minutes trip. Is there anything else that you think that wholesalers should know out there? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
There's one last thing that I want to say because I mean this in the bottom of my heart. If you are lucky enough to be a wholesaler in this world we're in today, I know there's days it's hard. I know there's days where you think, oh, I could just buy a book and be home every day, right? If you look at wholesaling that way, you probably ought to get out. But if you look at wholesaling like every day, it's a gift and it's one of the greatest jobs that's ever been presented. You're a lucky, lucky person. The greatest, I've been doing this 30 years and I put 16 years into being a committed wholesaler. And it changed my life. It changed my family's life. And and I I don't look for business today as a retail person, but I have zero doubts about what I do for my clients because of what I learned as a wholesaler calling on advisors for so long. So if you're fortunate enough to be making really good money, busting your hump as a wholesaler, you're one of the luckiest people on the planet. You know why I got out of wholesaling?
No.
3 back surgeries. I would still be doing it today if I didn't have physical limitations that don't allow me to travel because I loved it that much. It was that good to me, you know. And I just, out of all the people that I wholesaled with and that I managed, everybody that understood what a great gig it is. Yeah, is it hard? Of course it is. You got to travel, you got to get up, you got to do all the things that a lot of people are too lazy to do, and that's fine. That's good. But everybody that everybody that understood that and accepted it, and young people that I've watched come along like you, the success you guys have had is it's fantastic. Where else, really, where else could you do that? That's my point. I just, and once in a while I'll bump into a wholesaler that I can tell they don't like what they do, and I just want to grab them and go, you know what, man, you go find you another job because you're robbing somebody that really would probably take this job and love it, and as Anthony would say, learn it, live it, and love it, and actually do very well for themselves. So yeah, I hope if anybody listens to this, I hope they'll understand how much I did appreciate the career I had as a wholesaler and getting to work with and meet people like yourself. Um, they truly are some of the most talented people I've ever seen. And if you want to be a middle of the road wholesaler, that's fine too. But if you really want to love it and be great at it, do it. What's holding you back? Right. So it never held you back, my man. You got out, you came out swinging, and you've done incredibly well. And I'm very happy for you. I really am. I love seeing your success.
This was just unbelievable talking to you and rekindling an old friendship and a mentor and somebody that was critical to my career. And God, for everybody that gets to watch this, holy moly, uh, you're not taking down copious notes on everything Tripp said. You're out of your mind because I've already got at least 10 ideas floating around. And like I said, one thing you told me last week changed the entire trajectory of my year. So Tripp, thank you on behalf of everybody in the industry that you've helped over the years, the advisors, the wholesalers, the marketing team, the relationship managers, the product developers. Thank you, man. You're one of the best in the business. And everybody loves Tripp Thompson. So thank
No,
you for
you're
your
awful kind. You're awful kind, man. I appreciate seeing your success and you trying to help other people. That's a quality that served you well. And here you are trying to help other wholesalers. So yeah, when you asked me if I would do this, I'm honored to do it. Honored to do it.
oh, hi, man. I love you to death, Tripp. Have a
Thank
phenomenal
you.
day.
Thank
And
you, man.
you're the first legend, man. First of many.
Uh,
So
you
you'll
got
always
you
have
got
that.
you got a lot of great people to talk to, man. So many good ones to talk to. So you know what? Bless you, brother. Talk to you soon, okay?
All right, Tripp. Later, my
Thanks, man.
friend.
D. See you, buddy.
Bye.